All right, moving forward. It is now my honor to welcome Professor Girish Jha, Chairman, Commission for Scientific and Technical Terminology, MOE, on deputation from JNU, to the stage. Professor Jha's pioneering work bridges the depth of Indic knowledge systems with cutting edge computational methods, a rare and invaluable intersection that continues to enrich the field of language technology. Please join me in welcoming Professor Jha to deliver today's keynote address.
Thank you, Vidushiji, and thanks to CITLoB team for hosting me here. And that was a wonderful welcome, entertainment, and lovely. Thank you so much, Kulkarniji, for setting the tone. My talk will not be as entertaining as you had earlier, but a little bit. By the way, I'm former chairman of the commission. I just came back from there and joined JNU. I was on deputation to Government of India. See, our country is uniquely diverse, and more diverse than perhaps any country in the world. And therefore, our AI needs are equally complex and diverse. We have a lot of critical areas to make sure AI is applied, and each of these areas, requires a robust and scalable solution. Was just speaking to Vidushi ji that there's so many languages and dialects in India, and for example, a Haryanvi coming to Delhi and speaking in his or her tone, uh, so-called Hindi, and then machine has to recognize that also. Google Assistant, for example. So we need to translate from Haryanvi to Hindi and then Hindi to English. And for example, there's a Bangani dialect of Garhwali, and Garhwali is a dialect of Hindi. So someone speaking in Bangani has to be translated to Garhwali first, from Garhwali to Hindi, then to English. So there are a lot of complications actually. And let me tell you, these bigger companies are actually working on it. These are, in my opinion, the critical areas, and I wish our government also, as Kulkarniji was saying, required that, any health prescriptions be, in fact, explained to the customer or the patient in his or her language, similarly, business and all of that. So that will open a lot of industry here. So data-driven AI requires enormous amount of data. You all know that, and not all languages in India, not all domains in India have that kind of data here. And for each of these application areas and each of these in our own languages, and how many languages we have? 1,369 as enumerated by the previous census. Out of those, 22 only are our official languages, and out of 1,369, we have 270 mother tongues and 121 bigger languages, language groups, right? So enormous complexity that we can have. However, the continuous changes in data technology and expectations of the people. Now we expect our AI systems to answer much better. No, remember 10 years earlier when Google had their Hindi to English machine translation, they sent me an email to have a look at it, and I gave a simple Hindi sentence: "Ram aam khata hai," and look what they translated. Ram is a general account, and they weren't wrong. Aam is general, khata is account. At that time, the system was trained on the business data in Hindi, so we had a general account. Now that thing has been corrected. Now it's doing much better. Just last week, I gave Google to translate a single Hindi sentence with 100 words. And I was hoping that Google will fail, but it did not fail. It did wonderful translation. So we need huge quantities of data in almost all the areas and every domain of each of these languages. Now, we have each domain divided in subdomains. I'll show you some example of how subdomains work. And the subdomains may have mixed subdomains also. What are the issues in data in India? So sourcing the good data is always a challenge. I was sourcing, I was crawling Santhali data for a predictive keyboard for SwiftKey, and Santhali is popularly written in Devanagari, and with Devanagari we had many languages there: Bhojpuri, Magahi, Hindi, Maithili, all of that mixed with Santhali. It was nightmare to get Santhali out of it automatically. Then you have to do manual intervention and get all of that. For example, Bihar right now has a land records problem, and the same land records could be in multiple languages and could be in Kaithi script, which nobody knows right now. So Kaithi script can actually be used for Maithili, Bhojpuri, Magahi, Hindi, and Urdu. And you have to know how to actually get that back to Devanagari to make sure people understand that. So I'll give some examples of what we call big linguistic data in India: judicial documents, admin papers, historical records, sale purchase, newspapers and print media, literatures, film, television, Facebook, other social media, manuscripts, and other language historical records. All of that could be very, very complicated. And remember, we are not looking at data only in one single language. So one page can have potentially all possible languages of India and possible scripts of India. Theoretically, yes. Because we have manuscripts where not only multiple scripts are used, but one script influences another script. So, for example, a Bengali writing a Devanagari manuscript in Devanagari might use Bengali conventions in Devanagari. That will be more complicated. So, we need AI to build critical AI tools in all languages, and I consider these as most critical right now. The font, the basic level, one level, even fonts, converters, we don't have standards. There's a big controversy going on in the country right now on the fonts, why Devanagari is not being typed seamlessly well in all the platforms on mobile. So ASR, TTS, OCR, all of that, online handwriting, machine translation, text summarization, CLIA, all of that, and many more will be critically needed for Indian languages. So complexity of linguistic data, which is becoming more and more complex, puts additional requirements on pre-processing, and tokenizing, all of that. So, for example, I have to collect. This is a big problem in India. We have spoken data, but not really transcribed data in India. For example, I want to store spoken data from mobile phones right away in the databases. How to do that? So we'll have to bootstrap a conventional SQL. All SQL, right? With the natural language. My master's thesis in Illinois was basically on that. So I was trying to bootstrap English language with SQL. And bootstrap crawlers with voice commands obtain target data and store them in DB right on the fly. Otherwise, it will be nightmare. You let people speak and data vanishes in there. You don't have any way to store that data. Otherwise, India, everybody speaks on a mobile phone. If you're able to capture that data, as we capture big data, that'll be lovely, and we can have a lot of data. Crawl the raw data and train ML algorithms. That would be certainly the thing to do in India. Now, the linguistic diversity and complex usages poses additional challenges for India. And I mentioned about 22 official languages. 38 more are pending approval from the Home Ministry. So, the only country in the world where we are gaining languages officially, right? We started with 40 languages in our constitution. Now we have 22. We'll have more when there is election here. Some languages do get in, right? And 1369 plus minor languages and varieties. So, and English as the 23rd, and the Dada language, right? We call English Dada language. It's a very important language in there because 10% of Indians speak English, and approximately 3 or 4% speak good English, right? And that is important for higher education. And multimedia media, multilingual media, movies, TV, print, education, all of that, very, very complex. And by the way, English media is not growing as much as the native language media, which is a good sign in India. Language policy, education policy. We don't have a language policy in India yet. We have language formula. Remember, language formula is not policy, right? I've been telling government colleagues that please have a policy. And we have education policy, good one though, and new states are emerging. When new states emerge, there's a problem of language. Telangana, which language? The Urdu or the Telugu, when Bihar comes out of some other state, so whether Hindi or other language. It's always an issue actually in India. Governance, health, multilingualism, language and script mixing, English as an essential mix. If you're writing something on internet, English has to be there because of the URLs and internet IDs, etc. Now, ICANN has solved that problem, but people still don't know about it. Mixing of the language is a big problem. English, English is mixed, and most mixed language in India is Telugu actually, not Hindi. Socio-psychological reasons for code mixing and switching. We switch code. For example, we were doing a corpora of the 100 years of Bollywood movies, and there was one movie where Govinda is speaking to some friend, male friend in Hindi, and suddenly he switches to English. And then next time his girlfriend is approaching from sides. So that's why he switched to English. And people do mixed language also. So, for example, Crazy Kia Re. Crazy Kia Re is a song where crazy and Kia are mixed together morphologically. So a lot of this morphological mixing, script mixing, sound mixing, and multimodality mixing. A Tamilian shifting to Delhi, so his gestures would be different in Tamil Nadu. His gestures when he speaks Tamil or Hindi in Delhi might be different. So multimodality also comes in a big way. English can be mixed, switched with any of our languages. Mixing happens at any level. I just mentioned all of that, confuse karna, all of that. So it will be confused Kora in Bangla, but confused will stay. NLP tools have to cater to such phenomena, and Amazon Alexa and Google Assistant, they're doing good work. I've done two pilot projects for Google, and I've done some of these things with them. Mixed non-standard multimodal communication. I mentioned that. Mixed non-standard speech data. I did some work on the Bhojpuri people moving to Delhi, Maithili people moving to Delhi, Haryanvi moving to Delhi. They behave very differently. When Haryanvi comes to Delhi, they don't stay in Delhi, they go back. So they maintain their lingo and style. But Bhojpuri and Maithili people, they change to Delhi lingo. And that creates a lot of nuances. And such studies have to be done, and Google actually got this study done with me. So they are going much deeper into how people actually are going to use data. Social media usages, handwritten text, manuscripts, very, very complex. I'm going to talk about that. And then I already talked about the mixed script, like Bangla Prishtamatra being introduced in Devanagari, and dead scripts and also dying scripts, all of that. So we need to create huge amount of what I call language technology resource, LTRs, for all unimodal, bimodal, and multimodal for India, and for all domains and all languages. A huge amount of task. I was just thinking yesterday that all these 679 universities in India, they all have language departments. So let us start a consortia and tie up all the language departments of these universities and let them build data. And all this data should be ported on a cloud where someone can curate the data and then be used by public. So I'm going to propose that to the government. That this would be a good way to create all the data. So discuss some areas, niche areas. So I'll discuss 3 areas. How much time do I have, man? How much time do I have? You can't say endless. 10 more minutes. I'll be wrapping up. Education, judiciary, heritage. 3 areas which concern India more actually today. Education, we have a requirement of mother tongue. Lovely mother tongue, 270 mother tongues in India. So we can teach up to 5th level in mother tongue. And desirable higher level also if possible. Now remember, 270 mother tongues. Many of them may not have scripts even. So no written data, and we have to construct textbooks in those languages. So it's a challenging task. Content creation in all these languages, and Indian languages lack scientific and technical vocabulary to write even a textbook. Think of Ladakhi. I went to Ladakh to give a seminar. The kids would like their textbook to be in Ladakhi, but where is the vocabulary? If I write a textbook in Ladakhi, for example, doctor ne patient ka operation kiya. This is Hindi. Doctor, patient, operation, all English. So this is not going to work. We have to have words for these languages, in all these languages, so that we can have actual translations. These are the problems. And government has a commission. I was the 24th chairman of that commission, and it created more than 30 lakh words. And now all of those words are searchable. You can have agreements with the government of India to get all these vocabularies. When I was the chairman, I wrote the program myself, the Shabd portal. Shabd Road Education Government is actually my program. I wrote it in Java for the government of India, 0 cost. So that is being used by now 15 lakh people. मार्च 24 में उसको लॉन्च किया था, मार्च 24 में, अभी देखिए 1.5 साल हुए हैं और 15 लाख लोग उसको इस्तेमाल कर रहे हैं. तो आप उससे देखिए, और भाषण is doing an MOU with them. So you should also do an agreement with government of India to get that data for your usage. So remember, shabd shabd.education.gov.in. You can go to the site right now and see. So from technical vocabulary to textbooks and education, that it was a huge call, because we have to really create a lot of data for these languages, 270 mother tongues, and for 22 scheduled languages. Even for these 22 languages, we don't have the textbooks, for all the subjects that we need. The government has started a huge and ambitious project under Bharatiya Bhasha Samiti to do that. Obviously, human effort cannot solve this problem. We'll have to have suitable technologies, and we need to have 2 technologies, education and language technology for handling that. Now, for heritage, particularly manuscripts, what do? We have huge amount of problems for our manuscripts. Recently, government did a Gyana Bharatam seminar where we interviewed a lot of AI companies, and we shortlisted 2 or 3 for doing this job. And so a lot of these issues for Indian manuscripts. Manuscripts of India are approximately 51 lakhs right now, which are unedited, unread, unaccessed. And there are stories how if manuscripts are outside India, they are in good shape. I wanted to do a phonetics manuscript, Atreya Shiksha, and that wasn't found in India in good shape. We found that in Hamburg University. We and JNU paid 1,300 euros to get a picture of that manuscript in India, and we were able to edit that. But that was in good condition, right? So this is the story, and we need to act very fast actually on that. So Jnana Bharatam mission of Government of India is trying to bring technology for manuscript preservation. So I'm sure this will be a lot of business for you if you are aware that when they make a call, and it should be. So what do we need there? Actually, we need standards, uni, bi, multimodal, because there will be multimodal manuscript also available. Metadata storage, search, etc. Data input output mechanisms, online, handwriting recognition, editing, spelling, grammar checking, all of that. And we need to have how to archive it well, search, cross-link data. If I had time, I could have shown you how do we cross-link data. So we search Agni in Rig Veda, then search Agni in Ayurveda, Agni in Apte dictionary. They have different meanings. So to get a comprehensive idea of a word, we need to have cross-linking. Reading help, translation, fundamental research, experimentations. For example, I'm searching Rasayan Sar, there's the term bhasma. So how to make bhasma from the Ayurvedic aushadhis, that should be understood only if you read the text well. So all of that has to be done. Now coming to the third important domain, judiciary is a big problem in India because the legal language happens to be mostly English in the higher courts. But we have the subdomains of law, you see, about 15 subdomains of law, and then there might be mixed domains also. And see the status of judiciary in India: one Supreme Court completely English, I would say rather 90% English still in Supreme Court, and 25 high courts English and regional language. And look at the district courts, 672 district courts, mostly in regional languages, some English also. And the pendency is higher in the district courts, less in the high court, and very little in the Supreme Court. And look at the pendency, 3.5 crore plus cases pending together, 30,000 filed every day, 28,000 heard, 2,000 adds to the backlog, and 86% pending in district court, 13.8% pending in high court, and 0.2% only pending in Supreme Court. See the language and technology. Now, district court has very little technology available. High court has more technology available. Supreme Court has the most technology. Supreme Court has released about 50 years of data, recently, so that should be a good way to look at for you guys. The courts are disposing more cases now. Pendency rate has been rising. So from for these about 12 years, pendency rose by 8.6%. And so these are the number. And if pendency rises to a certain level, that judiciary becomes ineffective. We don't want that to happen. So diverse society, huge population, massive number of cases, poor infrastructure, poor technology support, pendency rising steadily, vacant posts, insufficient positions, quality of manpower, communication issues, all of that issues are there, but technology support is a big issue. Now we need resources in complex societies, and how do we get? 4 or 5 things. Data must be available. If not, create data using, for example, some language doesn't have any data available. Magahi, Gondi, Ladakhi, for example. What to do? You get the nearest language dictionary, for example, Hindi for Magahi, and then ask person to write words for Hindi in Magahi. Then ask him to create a sentence for each one of these, and then speak it out. So these are innovative ways to create data in languages which don't have data. The standards have to be there, and manpower obviously need a lot of manpower, and tools have to be there, corporate tools. And of course, data center. I have data center and corporate tools. And then of course, funds have to be there. Data has to be available. Not every language has data for each language technology, domains. And oral tradition, of course, many languages don't have scripts, so you have to make sure how to get data, that data in written form. Community has to be aware. Some data are born digital, some pre-digital and log data, all of that. Copyright issues are major. My student did a research on Hindi, polarity judgment, sentiment analysis. Like, आपके पिता का नाम क्या है is polite, तुम्हारे बाप का नाम क्या है impolite. So that kind of judgment by machine, and we collected a lot of data from social media. We had a game where students can give a rating to sentences. Then we train the machine. Now machine is doing well. But the question is, the social media data can have stake by people. If we start, if we start making money out of this system, then there might be issues. So we need to be very sure that copyright issues are handled very well. The standards in India have rarely worked in the And in the recent past, Panini's standard worked for Sanskrit, but after that, standards didn't work in India. But recently, BIS has been trying very hard. And there was a controversy regarding Devanagari usage on mobile phones, and PMO set up a committee, and then it's currently under DST. And there are three committees. One is to make standards, CIL Mesur. Other one is chaired by me, which is making sure that this software, hardware implementation is done seamlessly well across all the platforms. Third one is popularization committee by IIIT Hyderabad. So domain-specific processing is very complex. We need to have a lot of domain and subdomain divided data in Indian languages. And so that is important. So let me very quickly show you 2 minutes. What are the domains? So let me quickly show you a domain. So say entertainment, agriculture, politics, science, technology, art, culture, all of the 18 domains. And each of domains will have a lot of subdomains. These are from the library of science. And for example, I click on a subdomain, and say tourism domain. So tourism domain will have a lot of the subdomains: pilgrimage tourism, ecotourism, heritage tourism, all of that. So when you collect a sentence, make sure you mark all the sentence with the subdomain level. That will become a very rich resource, for future processing of AI and obtaining judgment, on the domains and subdomains. Then translating data, we need to have translation guideline. We have a translation guideline. I have copied that on this machine. You can use that. That was done for a Government of India project. So creating parallel data and the translation across, for example, translating Hindi to Marathi. And there's a sentence in Hindi, Arunachal ki सूरज की किरणों ने अपने आंचल पसार दिए. Suppose there is a sentence. सूरज की किरणों ने अपने आंचल पसार दिए. This cannot be translated in Marathi. Kulkarni ji बताएं. Kiran is masculine in Marathi, so it cannot have आंचल. तो कैसे आंचल पसारेंगे? So when you consider Hindi Marathi to be very close, when you go deeper, you find a lot of problems, and then you have to get around to solve the problem. So I have a translation guideline document which we have, created after a lot of doing workshops in different languages and trying to understand problems of each of these. You can use that. And the annotation, we have to have annotation guidelines. We have the scalar tags and the hierarchical tags, all of that. So BIS has now taken up some of the standards. We started with Microsoft consultancy and created a tag set, and then that was taken by BIS. And so we can have examples of annotating data from very simple to very complex. Part of speech tagging, name entity, sense tagging, chunk tagging, sentence tagging, and discourse tagging. All of that we can basically do. And then we have the annotation guideline. Also, I have given chunking annotation guideline also. So please try to use that and see if there is a question. Finally, a great way to get more data, we were talking about earlier morning, sharing and collaboration. So I'll give you also example of how to share. So data sharing should be done. Like LDC, University of Pennsylvania, I was consultant for them. They share data. You get data and you give data, all of that. And ELRA in Europe also does something similar. And so we need to have a mechanism where if you are done with your data, you can share it with some other agency and get some data in exchange. And there are data sharing models, manual sharing and automatic sharing. For example, I have my IELTS annotation platform. I annotate data first to tiers, then export data to Typra platform of NTNU Norway, and then they add another tier of annotation. Then they export data to the IMAGAC platform of University of Florence, which annotates action verbs for robots. So they can, and then it can come back to our platform. So these automatic seamless export import should be there across platforms to make sure data annotation is done at a better way. Then collaboration, industry, academia, government have to collaborate. This is what we are here for. And international collaboration is very, very important. I have to get some data for Portuguese, for example. Through my university, I'll make sure that the students are exchanged. Some students come from that university to our university. They attend some courses here, and I get data from them. Similarly, my faculty students can go to that university, get data. For example, I spent some time in the University of Florence to get IMAGAC platform up and running for Indian languages. So all of that would be possible. And student-faculty exchange can be done for data exchange and research. So thank you so much. I hope I haven't taken a lot of time. I can take some questions if possible.